Okay, so this is going to be a real quickie because I don't have a ton to say about this book, and also my firepower reviews don't get a lot of views at all. As opposed to my normal videos, which get so many views. Anyway, Firepower number 5 by Robert Kirkman and Chris Samney. This might be my favorite issue of the series because, for two reasons, and the major one is that it solves, for the most part, the biggest problem I had with the series. And if you watch my pull list videos, you'll know about this. But one of my big problems with the book in general is that while I really like the writing and the characters and it's really charming and funny and cute and interesting, the problem I had is the sequential artwork. It just did not fit the tone. It didn't fit the fight scenes and that sort of thing. Um, I love the art a lot, and art like this can work in a serious um, action comic, and it does here. And I think that's because it's not just all serious. There's a family element. It's not all action. It's very intimate and slow in a good way. Um, but I really like this book. This is probably my favorite issue of the series, if I'm honest. It solves the problem of artwork, and by that I mean where in previous issues I had a huge problem with the sequential artwork in terms of conveying what was going on in a fight scene. I feel as though this comic largely solves that problem. The combat is much more fluid, and it looks like something in this book. Whereas in previous books, it was like a bunch of still images that tried to link themselves together, but it didn't really. And so there was no real anatomy to the fight scene. There was no real flow. It was just sort of things that happened. But in this, there's a definite sort of progression, and it feels like a proper fight scene, um, which I really appreciate. Because that's like the main draw of the book, yeah, in terms of face value. You're buying this book because you want to read a book about a fire-powered martial artist fighting ninjas and stuff. So this book is pretty funny. It's pretty hardcore in a couple of ways, but above all, it's an intimate family tale, and I really appreciate that. By the way, I should mention the coloring in this book is really beautiful. I love the colors. Look at the inks there. One thing I want to mention is I really appreciate that there's no ads in this book. I'm not one of those people who actually minds the ads in a comic as long as I'm not paying for extra ad pages. It's not a big deal to me. Um, but ads keep comics on shelves, so it happens. It's a necessary evil. But Robert Kirkman has eliminated that in a large part because there's obviously no ads here, with the exception of ads for other issues in the series, other books that Robert Kirkman is writing. One last thing I want to mention is the letters page. I'm a big fan of letters page. Comic books, one of my favorite things to do with old comics is go back and read the letters pages in the back of the comics, like printed circuits, stuff like that in the old Iron Man issues where people would write in and they would talk about the issues and they would talk about their criticisms and stuff like that, because it was it was a way to view into a window of time and see what people thought about things when it was coming out. Obviously, there is some inherent bias in a letters page. You're not going to have people printing a bunch of negative criticism in their own books. But for the most part, I think it has the same allure to me as Wizard Magazine does, in that it's a sort of window into the hearts and minds of comic book fans at the time. But this is pretty funny. I on page 3, I think it is. No, on page 2 of the letters page. By the way, there's a ton of letters pages here, and I really appreciate that. It's like 5 or 6 pages. But somebody mentions that they write in about the font size, which is something interesting. I've never seen anything like that before. He says, "I'm an adult who still buys comics, and I'm having a problem with the size of the font." So either Robert Kirkman or whomever is actually responding in these letters pages basically increases the font size and emboldens it and puts it in caps, which I thought was funny. Some of the back and forth here. Oh, it looks like it is Robert in Chris who largely write in here. Yeah, look at that. I appreciate that. Robert Kirkman, my least favorite comic book of all time is written by Robert Kirkman. But I genuinely do think he's a decent guy. I think he cares about the comic book industry. I think he's a swell fella. And man, this is a fun story. I recommend this. Go pick it up. Go at the very least get the free comic book day issue. Robert Kirkman was kind enough to release the first issue for free during the free comic book day event. To sort of bolster sales for comic book stores during the worst of the first wave of the pandemic. Anyway, I'm going on too long. This video is already longer than it was supposed to be. I'll catch you guys later. Bye.